I have drawn borders for the Concord Atlas Guild for 40 cycles, and in all that time, I was taught exactly one rule that could not be argued, amended, or footnoted. The line at human space is final, not provisional, not pending further survey. Final, the way a closed eye is final. My instructor, an old cartographer named HFY, used to say that every other border in the registry is a description. The human line is a warning wearing the shape of a description. He never explained what he meant by that. He died with the explanation still folded up inside him, and the work passed to me, and I told myself I would be the one who finally understood why. I got my chance when the guild assigned me to a routine resurvey of Sector Theta 9, an unremarkable smear of dust and dead light, 3 folds removed from the human boundary. Routine resurveys are tedious. You confirm old data, update drift corrections, and file the report before the candle in your cabin burns down. I expected nothing from Theta 9. I found, instead, a thread someone had tried very hard to cut. Buried under 4 overwritten survey layers, the kind of overwriting that isn't sloppy, but deliberate, done by someone who wanted the original gone and didn't quite manage it, was a single courier-class hull signature. Not a warship, not a fleet. One small, unarmed vessel, registered to no convoy, with a transit log that ended at the edge of human space and did not, according to the official record, ever cross it. I requested the full file from the Guild archive. I was told, politely, that the file did not exist. I requested it a second time, citing the hull signature directly, and was told, less politely, that some records are sealed for the stability of the registry, and that a cartographer's curiosity is not, on its own, sufficient cause to unseal one. I am not proud of what I did next. I went around the archive. I have a friend in records who owes me a debt older than either of our postings. And she found what the Guild did not want found. A single transmission, 14 words long, logged at the courier's last confirmed position before the signature simply stopped. It read, "They are not guarding it, they are tending it." There is a difference, and it matters. The courier's name, in the old record, was the Quiet Hand. Its crew of 1 was a surveyor like me, a mapmaker, not a soldier, sent in not to conquer but to look, quietly, and come home with what she'd seen. No fleet, no weapons worth the name. The theory behind the mission, as best I could reconstruct it from the fragments my friend pulled loose, was almost embarrassingly simple. Every failed incursion into human space had been loud. Warships, armadas, declarations. Perhaps, someone reasoned, the line wasn't drawn against force at all. Perhaps it was drawn against attention. Send something small. Send something that doesn't announce itself. Find the seam. For a while it worked. The Quiet Hand crossed further than any logged vessel before or since. Her transmissions, what few survive, describe no warships rising to meet her, no alarms, no challenge. The first few logs are almost giddy with that absence. She notes the lack of patrol craft, the way a thief might note an unlocked door, and for 3 full transit days she allows herself to believe the line was never enforced at all, only assumed. A superstition the Guild had mistaken for a law. Then the tone of the logs changes, gradually enough that I had to read them twice to find where it turned. She stops cataloging what she doesn't see and starts cataloging what she begins to feel. A pressure behind a star she cannot account for by any instrument readout. A sense, she writes, that her course corrections are being anticipated rather than followed, that something ahead of her already knows which way she will bank before she banks it. She describes silence, and then, increasingly, she describes being watched inside that silence, the way you feel a hand resting flat against your back before it ever closes into a fist. She does not panic in the logs. That, more than anything else, is what convinced me the record was genuine, and not some fabrication planted to frighten junior cartographers into obedience. A fabrication would have given her terror, or defiance, something dramatic enough to justify the sealing of the file. Instead, she grows quieter with each entry, more careful, more precise, the way a surveyor does when she suspects her instruments are the only honest witnesses left and wants to leave them something worth finding. The last transmission is the 14 words. After it, nothing. No wreckage was ever found. No survivor returned to file a report. sealed or otherwise. The courier did not announce her own ending, the way a warship's death announces itself in fire and debris across half a system. The way a sentence stops when someone closes the door on the room where it was being spoken. I sat with that record longer than I should have. I kept turning over the line. They are tending it, because it does not describe a weapon, or a war, or even a species defending its territory. It describes a gardener noticing something has gotten into the bed. Not an enemy, a pest, or an intrusion, met with the mild, total attention of someone who has done this before and will do it again without raising their voice. I understood, finally, what Hescorvani never said aloud. The line at human space is not drawn against the size of what crosses it. It was drawn after the guild learned, at the cost of a small, unarmed surveyor whose only crime was curiosity, that quiet does not help you. Loud fails because loud is met with overwhelming refusal. Quiet fails because it is met with something worse, patience. The humans do not need to scramble a defense for a single ship. They simply notice, and wait, and decide, in their own unhurried time, that the matter is settled. There is no third method. That is what the sealed file was protecting. Not a secret weapon, not a fleet roster, but the plain fact that cleverness buys you nothing here. A border that punishes both the brave and the subtle in exactly the same silence is not a battlefield. It is a verdict, handed down before you ever arrive to argue your case. I went back through every other border in the registry, looking for anything resembling it, and found nothing close. Other forbidden zones are forbidden because something inside them is dangerous and were indifferent to anyone who wanders near. A collapsed star, a derelict weapon platform still half-armed, a plague world no one has bothered to clean. Those borders are warnings about a place. The human line is a warning about a judgment, rendered fresh each time, regardless of method, regardless of intent. The quiet hand was not destroyed because she was weak. She was unmade because she was noticed. And noticing, apparently, is enough. That distinction matters more than the guild's silence ever let on. A weak border invites someone, eventually, to test it properly, with a real fleet, real numbers, real patience of their own. A border that simply renders verdicts invites nothing. There is no strategy to refine against it, no flaw to widen with the next attempt. Because the flaw the quiet hand found was not a gap in a wall. It was the discovery that the wall does not need to be a wall at all. It only needs to be willing to wait. I filed my resurvey of Theta 9 as instructed. Then I did something no junior cartographer is supposed to do without 3 layers of authorization. I submitted a formal amendment to the human space boundary itself, citing the quiet hand's transmission as cause. I expected to be reprimanded. Instead, the amendment was approved within a single cycle, faster than any change I have ever filed, as if the guild had been waiting, for longer than my career, for someone to finally find the thread and pull it all the way through. The chart was redrawn, Sector Theta 9, and the dead space beyond it, where the quiet hand's signal ends, was struck from the registry entirely. Not marked forbidden, not flagged hazardous, simply removed, the way you remove a word from a sentence rather than cross it out. Future surveyors will not find a warning there. They will find nothing at all, which is its own kind of warning, for anyone who knows to read absence the way I have learned to read it. I still have Hescorvani's old instruments in my cabin. Sometimes, drafting some other border in some other quiet sector of the registry, I find myself starting to write the words he never finished, and stopping, the same way the quiet hand's transmission stopped, not because there was nothing left to say, but because some sentences are safer, left exactly where the silence found them. The line at human space remains final. I no longer wonder why. I have simply stopped being the kind of cartographer who asks,